Welcome to the Gospel According to Star Trek podcast. I'm Kevin C. Neese.
And I'm Tim Van Orden, and this is episode 10, Healing Frequencies Open. We'll be starting off with some Star Trek news and then discussing Discovery Season 3, Episode 2, Far From Home, not to be confused with the second Tom Holland Spider-Man film, Far From Home.
And then we'll get to an audience question right after our main topic, which is Healing Frequencies Open, discussing healing relationships in Star Trek. We're really looking forward to this one. Hope you are too. So we have Mary Wiseman to thank for the theme of this week's episode. Thanks to my partner here, Tim. How are you doing, Tim?
Thirsty. I was just taking a drink of water. Doing good. Doing good. Excited to be here.
It's becoming a running gag, the drinking water thing.
Usually when you get going, I've got plenty of time to sit back with a bottle of water here.
This is our 10th episode. You should know. I'm going to turn it. I'm going to flip it back to you pretty quickly.
Yes, as soon as
when we start out.
But mouth to bottle.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe you fix your timing. Well, I did the same thing last episode, so it's cool. Anyway, yeah. So Tim, you brought me the thing for this week's episode, which I think is really exciting. We're going to be talking about lots of different Star Trek in the third segment today. So I'm excited about it.
I am too. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. But before we get to that, we have news. I don't know who's going first. What do you have, sir?
I've got some news from the book side of things.
Okay, good.
There
good. Literary
is,
Trek.
Yeah, literary Trek. I fond of this side of Trek. There's going to be a Star Trek Picard novel tie-in. It's going to be a prequel set on the USS Titan with Riker and Troy.
Nice.
It's going to be released in January of 2021. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be called Star Trek Picard, The Dark Veil, written by Star Trek novelist James Swallow. And this news, of course, it comes from trekmovie.com. We can include the link in the description.
Yeah.
As a nice little piece of what I presume is going to be the cover art on there as well. It looks really good. Cool. So I'm excited. The official synopsis is on there. Sounds interesting. And it's coming out in January. So sounds good.
That's awesome. And I mean, the Titan is one thing I would love to see. Like, you just, it's kind of like, there was talk for a while about a Captain Worf series, like those kinds of things, like people who you've seen as like second in command or whatever, becoming captain.
Right.
That would be really exciting.
There was some call, I think a little bit of a call for a Sulu series a while back.
Yes.
After Undiscovered Country. Mm-hmm. And now I don't wonder if it's a little too late to maybe do a live action Titan series.
True.
But maybe we'll get a spinoff from Lower Decks.
Maybe so. I don't know if I'd want that.
But there is a novel series. The guy that's writing this book wrote some Titan books before all of the Abrams verse and everything else started branching off. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, like, obviously it's not going to really fit in with the canon that sits out there right now. Yeah. But yeah, there are some Titan books out there that are supposed to be pretty good. I haven't gotten to them myself yet.
Well, that's exciting. That's cool.
Yeah. So what do you got for us?
So I have more Janeway news. What the heck? This is crazy. But Captain Janeway now has a statue and memorial in Bloomington, Indiana. Is it Bloomington, Indiana? Not Illinois.
I don't know. It's
my thing.
It's your news bit. Do I need to Google this for you?
I thought it was in this news article I'm looking at right now, and I don't see it. Oh, Bloomington, Indiana. I was right. Okay, we can go on. All right. So she has her own. She now has her own statue or bust rather, and plaque in Bloomington, Indiana.
I'm looking at it. It looks good.
Yeah, you see it?
It's very cool. Yeah, it's again on trekmovie.com.
Check it out. Hey, we're like not spawn.
Right? They should sponsor us.
They should. Hey, trekmovie.com. Let's talk. But yeah, so basically the Bloomington, Indiana is the future birthplace of Captain Janeway.
Oh, right. Okay.
And I tell you, I have been to the future birthplace of Captain James T. Kirk, which is Riverside, Iowa.
Right.
Which they're very proud of the fact in Riverside. They're very proud of the fact that in the first Abrams film, they mention Riverside on screen. It's like, Riverside Shipyards,
Nice.
Yeah. It's cool. It's really cool. So it's like,
That's a nice touch.
yeah, it's like actually canon now. But in fact, they have a signed letter from Gene Roddenberry officially declaring Riverside, Iowa, the future birthplace of Captain Kirk, because he says he's from Iowa in Star Trek 4, and so they decided to be the town. But they have a cool thing there every year called Trek Fest, which is one of the first things I ever did once I started this Gospel According to Star Trek journey. But so I thought very much about this. I thought about that very much when I saw this. I'll tell you, Janeway has a better memorial. Janeway's got the statue, the bust thing there, and it's quite good.
It is. It is pretty good. Oh, and I just noticed the I don't know if there's a technical term for it, but the stand that the bust is sitting on is in the shape of a comm badge. It's the Star Trek symbol. Yeah,
nice. That's awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah, so this is a product of the Captain Janeway Bloomington Collective. It's a fan group, and we will link to their website below, and we'll also link to the story. But it's just really cool that I love when there are these cool nerd monuments that exist in our world. We got the Captain Kirk one, now we got the Janeway one. Of course, we've got the the things where like what is it like? I think there's a place called Vulcan in Canada. They have a big Spock thing there.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
May 20th, 2336. Oh, 5 days away from my birthday.
Oh, wow. So close.
Well, and
I didn't know
a
you
couple
were
centuries.
Yeah, I was about to say, I didn't know you were born in 2336.
Yeah. Well, I'm a time traveler.
Yeah,
I'm a time lord, actually.
Oh, okay. All right. That explains the phone booth in your backyard.
Indeed.
Isn't that interesting that both Doctor Who and Bill and Ted travel through time in phone booths? That just occurred to me.
That's awesome.
Party on.
Whoa.
Oh, man. Hey, did you see Discovery this week?
Discovery? What's that? Were you taking a drink of water?
Totally taking.
Nice.
That cable news channel, Discovery.
Right. Yes, with all the mammals.
Yes, the mammals and the people on the Alaskan frontier. No,
someone made a song about that.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What?
About mammals on the Discovery Channel?
No, I didn't know about that. I didn't hear about that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, mammals on the. Oh, okay. Yeah, I do remember that. I do remember that.
So, yeah.
Did you see Discovery this week?
I did. I enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah. Far From
quite
Home.
good.
Now, I was freaked out. Not freaked out,
should.
but I was. Go ahead. What?
Quick.
Please interrupt me.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. Quick addendum. We should note last episode, I made the mistake of assuming this week's episode was going to be The Hope That Is You Part 2. And much to my chagrin, it was not.
I was just going to say that I was expecting That Hope Is You Part 2, and it's called Far From Home. And I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
They probably announced the titles in advance.
They might have.
So if we were like professional podcasters, we would like look this up and be ready for that.
Right. But who wants to listen to professional podcasters, honestly?
Exactly.
They're
not the three people listening to us.
Oh boy. Yeah, I was expecting this to be that this is the first time that we've had a two-part or a part one of an episode that hasn't been followed by part two. I don't know if that's ever been done. I mean, maybe it has been. I don't know.
I mean, surely something out there was canceled before they could air part two.
Well, yeah, but I mean, actually scheduling them apart from each other, unless you count the Slapsgiving episodes and How I Met Your Mother, like I don't even know. I don't even know.
Yep.
So that's interesting. I have no idea where that's going.
And we've just spent a solid 2 minutes on that, and
we did.
There's much more interesting stuff to talk about in this episode.
What is more interesting to you about this episode, Tim? Tell me about it.
I thoroughly enjoyed Saru and Tilly.
Yes, the core of the episode.
Yeah, they were a delight. I really liked that moment when Saru tells Tilly that he brought her because she makes a good first impression.
Yeah, we're
That
going to meet the future. You would be a great first impression. Like,
I
oh,
got goosebumps. I'm not gonna lie. That was adorable.
that was beautiful. Oh, and you can see what it did to Tilly too.
Yeah.
And that's and
And
that's
that's why Saru is such an awesome captain.
yes, one of the many reasons he's such an awesome captain. That he has this incredible emotional sensitivity and gentleness and compassion, and he
Mhm.
sees people. He's exceedingly perceptive. That's the thing about Saru. He's got such a detailed mind. um but it's so perceptive and emotionally perceptive. More so since he's lost his fear ganglia, right?
Right.
And and so that about him is, but then when you put him in a corner, or try to put him in a corner,
Hmm.
he is not going to back down.
Yeah, because he's got that's well spine now from having lost the fear ganglia.
Right.
It's a really interesting duality to him.
Hmm. Of course, even before that, I mean, he would always step up. He would
Hmm.
always come to the plate when he needed to, but he's
Sure.
just so grounded now and so confident, and he's
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
he's
Confident is like he. Yeah.
we
It's
are
good.
at a loss to describe how great
Right.
Saru is.
And
That's
yeah.
yeah. He's wonderful, and that makes him such a great mentor for Tilly, who
Mm.
lacks such self-confidence. He was the one who recommended her for the
Right.
command training program, and there's definitely a mentoring relationship going on there, which I think is so beautiful, and it just speaks volumes to it speaks volumes to Tilly's potential, and that is so meaningful. You and I both watched The Ready Room this week, which we don't always do. But Will Wheaton told Mary Wiseman that his favorite character in all of Star Trek is Tilly. He's like, more than Spock, more than Kirk, more than uh, Wesley Crusher. Like,
Right.
because he's like, I identify with her.
Hmm.
She has that just not knowing what to say, or having too many thoughts in her head, not being able to express them, and the social awkwardness, and being able to see something but not being able to communicate about it, and all that sort of thing. He's like, I see her. I see myself in her more than any other character. I identify with her.
Hmm.
And he's saying, there's so many people who are going to identify with her, who do identify with this character and see themselves on screen, and that's very intentional, you
Hmm.
know and so I think it's great to have someone like Saru seeing, valuing that person,
Hmm.
and seeing their worth, and seeing their potential, and seeing not just potential, not like, oh, you're going to be something someday,
Hmm.
but yeah, you haven't arrived yet, but none of us have arrived yet,
Hmm.
and you're something right now.
And he he knows how to bring that out of her. Like
Hmm.
he's just, oh, I see this in you, so I'm just going to push you until it comes out. It's
Hmm.
he knows how to coax it out, how to tease it out of her, and how to get her to grow in a way that's going to be beneficial to her.
Yeah, and to be that encourager and that support. And I mean, gosh, you know there's so many things to talk about with this. But there's such, and we're going to get into it in the main story too, because Mary Wiseman made that comment in the Ready Room about seeking out healing relationships, and that's the core of our episode today. Is comes from that. Thanks to you came up with the idea to do this, and it's I think it's brilliant. And you're supposed to say, "Why, thank you very much, Kevin.
Oh well,
I'm
you
so
were
humbled and
still
flattered."
talking.
I know, I'm just kidding. I'm joking.
Do I need to take
But
a drink of water?
no, that's okay. but I think it's brilliant. And Mary was talking about that, seeking healing relationships, and there's so much in this kind of relationship that is so important, that coming alongside another, you know I mean, the scriptures even talk of the Holy Spirit like that, as the comforter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the one who walks alongside with us, um and being that for each other, that commonality of spirit is so important, and is so vital to all of us. And the Saru Tilly relationship just brings that out so well. I thought it was great.
I agree.
It was also kind of cool to see Saru's, like, what are those, like, blow dart ganglia?
The needle, yeah, that was pretty cool. Just the way he just
I
whipped
was
those
like,
out.
what has that? Am I crazy, or have we never seen that before?
We've seen it. I think we've seen him use them once before
We've seen it
in
once.
Reflex, like
Okay,
maybe
like they
on
popped out, but not
yeah,
shoot them.
I think he shot him in the
Did he?
episode where he's back on his home planet and
Uh
he's
huh.
being held captive.
Yeah, yeah.
I
That's
want to say he shot him at the maybe.
maybe.
I can't remember, but this
I
is definitely the first time, whether he's shot him before or not, that he's done so intentionally.
Right, right. Well, and that may very well be the case. That probably is the case. It's been a bit since I've seen that episode, so details like that are kind of lost on me. But
Sure, that's fair.
but yeah. Anyway,
Yeah,
so the
that
rest
was
of the go ahead, go ahead.
no. I was just going to say that was. I don't know what's the rating on this podcast. Can I say kick ass, or can you bleep that out in editing in post?
We have not rated this podcast, sir.
Oh, okay. All right, excellent. Unrated. That was kick ass.
Oh boy. Well, anyway, so yeah, it was great. It was fantastic. But the other things, I mean, of course, the rest of the crew is the other thing,
Right.
and really getting to see more of them in action and in crisis, and coming together. Especially, I really loved Owusu-kun and Detmer. I love the way that relationship is growing. I love both of those characters. I want to see them more.
Yeah, I'm really wanting to know what's going on with Detmer and this sort of like did Control maybe do something to her? Because we've had the last season with Control taking over the heavily cybernetic lady. I can't remember her name, but so yeah, maybe there's something going on, but I don't know.
Ariam,
yes.
Ariam, who I loved, but we didn't really get to know. We've talked about that before. I wish we could have gotten to know Ariam more. We didn't even have to think of her name, and that was my problem at the beginning of this series, was that they didn't say the characters' names very much.
Right.
And there are so many people on the bridge, and it's hard to keep track of who's who.
Well, yeah, and they don't do the, flashing the names in the intro with their character and the actor.
Yeah, well, they don't do that in any Star Trek.
I mean, yeah, they did. They did it in TNG.
No, they didn't. Oh,
and they did it in DS9 too.
You mean
I feel like
I'm sorry. I thought you were thinking like with the person on the screen.
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah. They didn't give the. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, they don't put the character name with the actor name in the credits. Yeah, that's right. Anyway.
While we're on the topic of Detmer and Control, I did want to say that I have a little personal theory about Control.
Okay.
That A, we haven't seen the last of them.
Okay.
And B, I think, and I know it's like extremely far-fetched and probably not a realistic theory, but I think Control is the birth of the Borg.
Really?
Yeah.
And
that there's going to be some time travel shenanigans or something, and it's going to get booted off all the way to the other side of the galaxy, or who knows what. But I think Control is the origin of the Borg.
That's interesting, because I mean the Borg have been around for hundreds of years.
Sure, that's fair. That's why I say there's going to be some time travel shenanigans.
Yeah, there would have to be. Interesting. We will have to see what happens with that.
Yeah, like I said, probably not a very realistic theory, but
it'd be cool.
It would be
Nonetheless,
interesting.
yeah.
But back to our current episode.
Yes. And so many, I mean, and just the little, we're almost getting a little triumvirate here of Paul and Hugh and Jet, you know, because it's like Paul, he can't, he functions okay on his own as like sort of a chief engineer guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But without Hugh and without Jet, I don't know, they seem to just like work so well with him. It's almost like they're his support team, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And particularly with Jet Reno in this episode, I find her to be like almost the series McCoy.
Yeah.
You know, but
Yep.
but maybe a little funnier, or maybe a lot funnier.
Uh-huh.
And because I don't know if you're familiar at all with Tig Notaro.
No.
I literally only know her from like talk shows and stuff, because I've seen her come on talk shows a lot to promote her work in Discovery. But she's a stand-up comedian who kind of fell into being an actor. And she is just, I mean, just the way you see Jet Reno on the screen is very much just her personality. That is just how she is.
That's
and
funny.
She's utterly brilliant, and just one of those people who walks in the room and starts talking, and just like, I want to spend more time with you.
Nice.
Yeah, so she's really cool. But I felt like in this episode she was really serving as like both a foil and a support for Paul in such an important way, you know. And it's like the whole thing when he's wanting to go up the ladder, you know, and she's wanting him to admit that he needs help, you know. And it's like, you know, that she probably would go up the ladder if she could, but she's so like constantly poking at him and digging at him and being a jerk to him, kind of, or not being a jerk, but being joking with him, you know, poking at him, but always in a way that's like, yeah, but I'm gonna look after you, and I'm gonna care for you, and I'm gonna follow you, and I'm gonna make sure you're okay. And in that moment she gets very, very honest, you know, and just like, it's horrible to feel hopeless, but it's not forever, and it doesn't mean you're not capable.
And that's that kind of, that's something that a lot of people need to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so true, because like we all have those periods when we're helpless. We all have those periods when we need help. Some of us have a certain level to which we need help our whole lives, right? I mean, we've talked on the show before about disabilities. But man, yeah, right. It doesn't mean you're not capable. It doesn't mean that there isn't, you know, because you can't do this thing that's in front of you, that whatever, time, life, money, disability, your body, whatever says you can't do. Because you can't do that thing, it doesn't mean that you're worthless. It doesn't mean that, you know, you can't do anything. You just can't do that thing. So maybe don't get caught up in doing that thing, you know. Maybe give yourself the space. I don't know what you can say.
I was just gonna say, this feels like it speaks to that concept of hope.
Yeah.
That we're kind of, I think, is going to be the season long overarching theme.
I think so too. It's certainly, I think it's series long, honestly.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, it's honestly, it's a Star Trek theme, right?
Yeah,
but,
yeah, that's true.
But I think we're dealing with it in a fairly acute way in this series, which I love. I love that. It can make it harder to watch for some people because we deal with some rougher stuff, but
you know, that's Star Trek. Star Trek is what it needs to be for the current generation.
Right.
And you know, there are a lot of people in this current generation that are dealing with rougher stuff front and center. Yeah. And so for Star Trek to just kind of say, hey, we're not going to beat around the bush on this. It's okay to confront it. It's okay to talk about it. It's okay to call it what it is. That in itself is extremely helpful to a lot of people.
Absolutely. And let's remember too that when we're talking about things like, well, yeah. Oh, I deal with that every day in my life, that a crazy robot guy is trying to chase me, or, some things, my starship is crashing into the planet and being,
Mhm.
eaten by parasitic ice. Like,
Right.
no, these are metaphors. It's like the intensity of the stuff that our people face in the stories that we tell each other, that that mirrors the intensity of even maybe just how we feel,
Hmm.
the things that we confront in our everyday lives. I mean, what about myths about dragons, and ogres and monsters and cyclopses and all those sorts of things, like cyclopses. Anyway,
Cyclopi.
cyclopses. Anyway, you get what I'm saying. What
Yeah.
about all those kind of things we when people dream up problems and challenges for their
Mhm.
heroes to face that are much bigger than the ones they deal with in real life. How many times do you hear people compare a problem to the Hydra, in
Mhm.
Hercules? Because, yeah, we may not be confronting those actual things, but our literal stuff can feel that bad to us. And so that's important. That's very important. And some people need that, and some people need other kinds of stories, and that's why it's great that there's variety in Star Trek. But that ties into this sense of disconnectedness that we have in this episode.
Mhm.
This sense of well, I've talked about it before in the series, disorientation.
There's some
We
sort of weird background noise
Oh,
going
hey,
on.
folks at home, it's raining where I am, so you might hear some noise now and again.
Okay.
Sorry, I meant to say that up top in the episode, but then it wasn't raining right then.
Gotcha. I
So
wasn't sure if it was a fan and you were going to want to
no,
redo the
no,
take or something.
no, it's rain.
Okay.
But where was I?
Sorry, I
That's okay. It's
completely
okay. But
derailed you.
no, we've talked about that sense of disorientation in this episode, in this series before, and it's very, very strong in these couple of episodes of trying to find some grounding and find some footing and find some way through um, when things are in chaos. What else do we need to say about this episode?
Okay,
So
so I
much
just
we haven't even covered.
yeah, oh yeah, but I just stumbled. This is not related to this episode, but
Mm-hmm.
while we were looking up crew names and ranks and positions and all that jazz, I stumbled across an Easter egg that is really cool. Um, so in episode 9 of the first season, uh, let's see where to go. A An officer is ordered to report to the ready room on the Discovery. That officer that was ordered to report was Cadet Decker.
Oh, nice.
In the article Star Trek Discovery's Coolest, Deepest Cut Easter Eggs by StarTrek.com, it's suggested that that is likely that this cadet may actually be Will Decker.
That's pretty cool.
Which is kind of neat. Yeah, not going to
Yeah.
lie.
It could be Will or it could be Matt.
Who's dad. Matt?
Matt Decker's his dad from the original series. From
what?
Yeah, you know that?
What? I had no idea there was a Matt Decker.
Yeah, Matt Decker. It's in I think it's Turnabout Intruder, the last episode of the series.
Oh wow.
Matt Decker. And when in its early days, Star Trek Phase 2, which used to be called Star Trek New Voyages, when it was called Star Trek New Voyages. Was it New Voyages or anyway?
I don't know.
They brought that actor back to play Matt Decker again.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
They did like a sequel episode, sort of. But anyway.
So anyway, sorry. Sidetrack. Cool Easter egg. I was tickled to learn that all of a sudden.
That's really cool. I don't know.
Into the forest I go.
Okay, yeah, you went into the forest on that one for sure.
That was rather apropos.
Okay.
So yeah, what else about this episode do we like?
The thing I loved was the villain in our little Western saloon that we went into. It was so funny because they come up to those Batwing doors and I'm just like, is this gonna be? This looks like they're walking into a saloon, and then it turns and shows where they're going, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it is a saloon. They're walking into a saloon.
Yeah, is it a requisite that every Star Trek series has to do a Western episode?
I don't know.
I know we've had one in TOS and TNG.
Yeah.
I don't know about DS9 or Voyager though.
We had
or
one
Enterprise for that matter.
In Voyager sort of, not really, is Western-ish. It wasn't Western. It was that era, but it was like in Ireland. So with the spirit folk and stuff like that.
Close enough.
Yeah.
And surely Bashir and O'Brien ran through some.
Well, they used to go to the Alamo. I mean, that's not.
Yeah.
That's not, exactly.
It's close.
Old West, but yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, it's close enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was cool.
That was pretty great, and it was an amazing scene.
The Michelle Yeoh fight scene in there, for those of us that like the action stuff, that was really cool. It was really good, and I loved that little standoff between her and Saru.
Yes.
And he just doesn't blink. Now, I don't know if he actually blinks, but like figuratively, he just doesn't blink, right?
He does not flinch. He stands there, he stands his ground, and that's what's so great about him in that episode.
And I feel like Georgiou actually respects that, like where he's not backing down from her.
Yeah, I think so too. That's the thing about her, is like, I think she's more honorable than she lets on, or than she realizes, or has that ability more than she confesses to.
Right. And I think this kind of ties in with our topic, because I wanted to say that I feel like Georgiou is madly seeking Michael as that relationship that's going to heal her. I think Georgiou recognizes, or at least maybe subconsciously, that there's something wrong. There's some pain. There's something that she's missing, and she knows Michael fills that somehow, which is why she is like when Georgiou first came over to our universe, to the Prime universe, like she put off this air of not really caring about anybody that much, but now it's like she's not hiding it. She is one track, gotta find Michael.
Yeah, she really is.
There's just that drive to find that relationship, and so that segues nicely into our main topic, which was, like you mentioned earlier, the quote from Mary Wiseman, in life we seek out relationships that can heal you. And I actually had to, like, she said that, and I was kind of half listening, but it hit me, and I'm like, wait a minute, say that again. And I had to rewind it and watch it again. It was very, very, I think, a central theme to a lot of Star Trek.
I agree. And I was really, when you brought this up as the main topic for today's episode, I was like, okay, because I didn't actually remember. I remember her saying that, but I placed it in the episode somehow when we were talking, and because there were so many great moments in the episode. But yeah, that was from the Ready Room, and I thought, boy, that's a really great theme. And you came up with several places in Star Trek where we see this theme happening. And so let's just get into it. Let's talk about some of the places that we see it, and pitch one.
So, and this is from here on. This is where we avoid Discovery spoilers, right? So that
absolutely,
folks listening in who maybe skipped over the Discovery part can.
Yeah, for those of you who skipped the Discovery section, welcome back.
Go back and listen to it after the episode.
Go back and listen to it after the episode. But this is the part where we talk about other Star Trek.
Right.
So give us those examples. This was kind of your idea.
Okay, so I think the one that really stands out to me, and it was not one of the ones that I rattled off right away to you, but the one that really stands out the most to me is one named after myself. So no vanity there, but the character Timothy in Hero Worship.
Oh yeah,
where he's actively seeking that to emulate Data, which is on another level, where Data is your Christ figure, is an entirely different
that's
bag
true.
of topic to talk about. But but yeah, just the whole episode, he's trying to heal from this trauma that he's gone through, and he seeks out this person who doesn't feel emotional pain to try and help him come to grips with the pain that he's feeling,
or really more to escape it.
Right.
To avoid it. Which
is part of, like, my therapist has tried to help me to understand that a lot of what we do, even bad habits, a lot of what we do is an attempt to meet a need, right?
Yes.
And so this need to escape is, I feel like, corresponds to a need to heal. Like, you can't heal from a fire while you're in the fire.
Right.
right? The first thing you need to do is get away from it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what he does. And it's not until he gets away from it, not until he escapes, that he can then be approached to start healing.
Yeah. No, I think that's true. And I think it's, that's a very good observation. We often, and I deal with this with some people who are friends of mine and people I try to help and what have you, that, they'll go through something, and maybe they're dealing with depression, or maybe they're dealing with a trauma or something like that, and they just absolutely do not want to talk. And there are times in my past when I would try to force them to talk,
Mm-hmm.
because I am the kind of person who I want to help people heal. I want to talk about things that are important. I want to get it out there. I cling to that phrase, which is a borrowed phrase, but nonetheless a phrase from Fred Rogers: anything mentionable is manageable. He got that phrase from his mentor in psychological studies. But anything mentionable is manageable, so that when we get it out there and we can talk about it, then we can deal with it. I think that's what. Oh well, I'm not going to go there. That was but a Discovery reference. I watched myself.
Yeah.
But in a scene that we talked about earlier, where one person was trying to get the other person to do a thing they didn't want to. Anyway, I think that's what they were trying to do.
Right.
In that scene, that person.
What scene was that?
That was with the ladder.
Oh, right. Yes, the ladder.
Okay,
gotcha.
So, speaking in code, but anyway, but I think that's very important. But I find that you do kind of have to wait for some people to go ahead and see what they will keep talking about. If you can keep it casual or whatever, and just stay connected, and just give them the space to connect, or to open it up on their own terms and in their own time. That's very important. Like when my son gets injured, a lot of times he's like, don't look at it, don't touch it, he wants to get over the immediate pain first. He will run around, he will shake it off, he'll walk it off, he'll do whatever he needs to do to just sort of get past that initial pain, and then maybe he'll let you look at it. And then it's like, maybe if he really thinks something needs to be done, maybe he'll let you touch it. It's just like,
and I'm sure mom and dad are just sitting there like, is there any bone coming out of the skin? At least tell me that.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly. But you just let him, because I have to trust him to know if he's hurt really badly or not. I just have to trust him and just watch him and listen to him and just be attentive and just give him whatever he needs. And I think he's a big believer in letting stuff heal on its own too. And so he and people are like that emotionally too. It's just when they have that pain that's really hard, some people will be like, help me, I'm bleeding out, come and put a tourniquet on me. And other people will need that space in that moment. So anyway, we're getting off on a thing, but I think you're really right about Tim in that episode, that he has to go through that process. But that sense of that he's seeking that healing relationship, he's seeking someone to emulate, someone to be like, so that he's not himself. Because maybe if he's not himself, then he didn't go through what he went through. Maybe if he's not himself, then he doesn't have to process what he has to process. Doesn't have to do what he has to do, because he's somebody else instead. And I mean, we do that with or without somebody to try to emulate. And yeah, so I love that. But again, I mean, it would be an unhealthy thing for Tim to continue his life trying to live as an android.
Right. We don't want to suggest that that's the final step. That's just the first step.
But it was healthy for him to go through that process initially, so that he'd be ready to allow himself to deal with the human stuff. So
kind of like I feel like there's a comparison there to Cisco trying to come to terms with the loss of Jennifer and the trauma that he goes through there. Who is he? What is he seeking in DS9? There's there's got to be something there. And this is just kind
Yeah.
of off, just spilling out right now. I'm not going anywhere with it. I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm asking like if you can think of anything. I feel like there's got to be, because he does have this complete healing arc where he goes from only thinking about Jennifer to being able to pursue another relationship and in a healthy way. And
I think his relationship with Cassidy is definitely a healing relationship for him, for sure. Well, his relationship with Jake is too.
Mhm.
And even I guess we could say his relationship with Deep Space Nine, because I think that loss is so profound. I think of that shot of him in the very first episode when the shuttle is launching away from the Saratoga, and he's lost Jennifer, and that depth of sorrow that's in him. I've felt that, where you're so far down that you just feel like there's nowhere to go. Like you can't. People say you're so far down there's nowhere to go but up, but it's like, nope, there's just nowhere to go. I'm just going to stop right now.
Mhm.
I'm going to stop caring. I'm going to stop living.
Mhm.
But I think Jake anchors him. I think the assignment at Deep Space Nine again seems to offer him an escape, but it also offers him healing.
And then maybe that I think his escape was his assignment to the shipyards. That was a chance for him to kind of take a step back from what he
That's
was
true.
doing that caused the pain, and then now he's ready to take another step and
Right.
start the healing process.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to get too, like, it's very important about the trauma and pain healing relationships, but there's more to relationships than just that. Namely, like, as social creatures, we need friendships, right?
Yes.
And I don't think anything embodies that more than the bromance between Bashir and O'Brien.
Oh, I love that relationship.
Sometimes you need someone to play with.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that true?
Yep.
I thought maybe you were going to go further.
Oh, no, that's
No,
usually so.
no.
So my role here is to just kind of spark you. Like, I'll say something smart, and then you expand on it.
You're gonna put the ball on the tee, and I'm gonna take a swing at it. All right, I got you.
Exactly. I'm gonna put a nice juicy ball, a juicy steak out there for you to just. No, I keep thinking of their times in the holodeck, and they started out the series like it was almost as if the writers intended for them to be antagonistic towards each other and not get along at all, sort of a thing. But they gelled really well.
Yes, they did.
I think they became fast friends, and so there's a component of the characters needing something from each other. O'Brien needs that friend to hang out with and express some interests with, and Bashir needed that adult, maybe that normal-ish person to kind of help him navigate relationships with other people.
Well, and like you said, it's so important for them to play together. I think that's really true, and I think we seek that in a lot of different ways. And some things are more related to sport or something like that, but there are lots of ways that we play. There are lots of ways that we imagine, even if somebody's maybe they're writing something together, or maybe they're just watching TV shows together, or whatever it is they're doing. It's interesting how those bonds of friendship can grow in those places where you're not necessarily having those deep talks. Or maybe you're having deep talks about something else, like Star Trek, and then you bond through that, and that is very important. And there is a healing there for both of them, because Miles' relationship with Keiko is strong, but they've gone through a lot. They've gone through a ton, and Keiko is not always real happy, and Miles feels a bit guilty and doesn't know exactly how to help her or what to do. And of course, all chaos rains down on them at every turn. So there's also that. Good gracious, the O'Briens. I mean, the most put upon, like the most long-standing married relationship in Star Trek and the most tormented and tortured couple in Star Trek history.
Indeed.
They've gone through a ton, but and then Julian also, I mean, being chief medical officer, I mean, there's a ton of stress, there's a ton of strain, there's a ton of responsibility,
Mhm.
and being able to let go in a place where you don't have that strain, you don't have that responsibility, is also really important. So there again, yeah,
Mhm.
I think that's a great example of a healing relationship in Star Trek. Yeah.
And then, of course, we have Seven of Nine.
Yes. Now that's a whole
Just
process.
yes,
And
4 seasons, and even some in Picard.
yeah. Well, yeah, but I mean, when you're talking about specific relationships, I mean, when you say Seven, I immediately think of Janeway.
Yeah, seven. Well, and not just Janeway though, but I mean, she seeks out this relationship with the Doctor.
Yes.
She seeks out a relationship with Harry Kim just to kind of explore, understand what, and then later Chakotay, the whole romantic side of things.
Don't bring that up.
Don't. Oh, I'm sorry. You don't like
I don't like that
the
bit. I don't.
Chakotay
I don't like the
seven.
Chakotay 7 thing, but that's okay. Go ahead.
That's okay. It feels like every member of the crew
Right.
brings something different to her healing, to her growth.
Yeah. Well, another one that might be overlooked is her relationship with Naomi Wildman, which I think gives her a chance to have some childhood experience as well, having basically lost hers. She gets to connect with that through Naomi.
Mm-hmm.
So,
wow, yeah, I hadn't even it's so obvious now that you say it, but I'd never considered that.
Well, that's that's the nature though of Seven, though, is that there's so many elements of her character that have it illustrates, if you think about it, how many things the Borg take away.
Mm-hmm.
How much you lose when you become a Borg drone. And so yeah, so absolutely, seven is a big, her whole arc is an arc of healing, and I think she's still, like you said, I think she's still going through it in Picard, though we're not talking about New Trek.
Right, we're trying not to talk about New Trek too much. But she's got I'm very interested to see what they do with her in the second season.
With Annika.
Yes. Annika.
With Annika.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah. All right, what else you got?
Okay, so all right. All right. Sybok. One of my favorites. I know the fifth Star Trek film is not one of your favorites, and maybe for that reason, I get a lot of joy out of the film. But I always come back to that, the revolving around pain and releasing pain, and so I'm trying to think about what relationships Sybok is searching for here, and I feel like he too is trying to find some healing, but he's going about it in the wrong way. I think he's trying to ignore the pain and pretend that it's not there, that it doesn't exist. I think trying to take it away, right?
He's trying to he's seeking a relationship with God.
True. Yeah, there is that. Yeah.
But he's looking in the wrong place.
Right.
And I think he figures that out. And I think in the end, he figures that he's been trying to take other people's pain and lead them to this painless life or whatever. And there's I'd never thought about this before, but there's a salvific element to what Sybok does.
Just gonna say, yeah, that sounds like what Jesus is supposed to be doing, right?
Right. That's so funny. I talk for hours and hours and years about Spock as a Christ figure, and I don't even think about Sybok. This is how it happens, folks, right here, live and in your ears.
I was determined to make Star Trek V a cornerstone of your Gospel according to Star Trek.
It's not a cornerstone, but it is part of it. I do dislike Star Trek V a lot, but I like it a lot for what it's trying to say and what it does say in various places. You'll notice the chapter on Star Trek V in the first book is very narrowly focused, just to keep me from talking about everything else. But I feel like I did myself a disservice there too, because I didn't talk about some of the things that are good. Like Sybok being one of them. And I think Sybok in that end moment, figuring out that he goes to the God figure and says, your pain is great, let me share it with me, and sharing in that being's pain. I mean, you assume it kills him, right?
Mhm.
Maybe it kills them both. Maybe that being is just a big ball of pain, and in absorbing it, Cybok, sort of destroys it or what have you. Um, but it's really hard. This is the thing I don't like about Star Trek V. It's really hard to suss out just what it is that Cybok is doing in that film
Sure.
with regard to taking people's pain
Mhm.
and what his skills are and what he does to people. And it's very weird. It's not very well defined. It's kind of like the Nexus in Genesis. It's like in Generations. It's like the idea is there, but it's not fully formed. It's not fully explained, and there are just lots of gaps to really understanding it.
Mhm.
Um, so Cybok's kind of a rough thing, but how might he feel as a half brother who is distant enough from his brother to have not been mentioned in the
Right.
past 25 years.
I wonder if
um,
they're going to bring him up in Discovery.
Ooh, that would be interesting. Although I will say Lawrence Luckenbill, who played Cybok, is the only person who can play Cybok, as far as I'm concerned. Like
Well,
the only, like half the reason that movie is watchable is Lawrence Luckenbill, because his performance as Cybok, even when his dialogue doesn't make any sense, it's still compelling. You still believe it.
that's fair.
He killed in that role. He was wonderful. But it would be interesting. It would be interesting.
It
Yeah.
would be.
So. Um, yeah, the lost siblings of Spock. I hope we get
Right.
any more. Oh
Turns out he's
mercy.
just got a whole menagerie.
Right. But yeah, no, but you're right. I mean, Cybok is seeking something. I think he's trying to find this fulfillment through taking on this sort of messiah role, if you will. And ultimately he figures out that he was wrong. That he wasn't pursuing God, that he was really pursuing himself. That's what the God being shows him at the end of that film. He's like, shows him, well, maybe you recognize this, and he comes and appears to him as himself. And there's, I think, so much we can get so caught up in, questing for some sense of God that we've built up that you know really is more the story we want to tell ourselves than who God really is. And that maybe Cybok has been trying to understand himself and find himself all this time. And yeah, so uh yeah, so there, yeah, I think that's great. I think that's definitely a it's an unhealthy seeking of a healing relationship, but it is a
Mhm.
seeking for the healing through
Yeah.
relationship.
But again, it speaks to that universal. We seek out relationships that can heal you. We don't always seek out the best ones.
Right.
We don't always find the ones that we need, and sometimes we find ones that we didn't realize we needed.
Mm-hmm.
But there's that drive, that movement within us
Mm-hmm.
to find, to connect.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, there is no greater drive and no, well, probably a few greater risks of getting Kevin to just go on for hours than Kirk and his seeking of relationships. And I don't mean of relationships, although there's probably something to be said for that. Um, just first of all, Kirk in the films where he's
Yeah.
trying to seek out basically the relationship that helps him identify who he is. He's seeking out that relationship with the Enterprise. He's seeking out that relationship with his crew, both lost and found. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but then the Kirk and Abrams verse, as much like there's a lot to complain about in Abrams verse Star
Mm-hmm.
Trek. But there's a lot to love in Abrams verse Star Trek, and I think Kirk's journey, Kirk is the epitome of this Star Trek feeling of looking for the healing relationship
Mm-hmm.
because he's broken by the death of his father. Like he's just broken. He's
Yeah.
separated from the world. He's out of it. He's broken, and
Mm-hmm.
everything he does is an attempt to find something to heal that.
Well, and he's pushing away the thing that reminds him of his hurt, the thing that he's
Mhm.
he's dead set against Starfleet because Starfleet killed his dad.
Right.
you know. But at the same time, it's not that Starfleet killed his father, it's that his father believed enough in Starfleet or in the Federation to give his life, and that saved Kirk's life. And that's what Pike helps him to understand in that beautiful barroom scene, which is one of my favorite scenes in all of Star Trek. Um, that conversation that Pike and Kirk have across the table when Kirk's nursing his bloody nose and fiddling with a starship salt shaker, which I wish
Oh,
I
me too, buddy.
had. But but yeah, it's that. Well, and therein I think again you see that mentoring type relationship that is
Mhm.
offered, and Pike sort of putting the hooks in the water and trusting in the better part of Kirk, to reach out.
Mhm. And I think that's an important element of when you're on the being sought end of
Mm-hmm.
that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It's important. I think part of what the person who's doing the seeking is looking to find is that element of trust, that
Yeah.
they are going to trust you enough to let you come to it on your own terms.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think that's something too that might might evidence someone who's being disingenuous, is someone who wants you to come to them and only them for your healing, someone who is intent on sort of pulling you into their sphere and pulling you into their world.
Mhm.
um I mean, that's kind of how cult leaders operate, right?
Mhm.
And I think people who have been in those kinds of situations can understand how that dominant personality can be misused, and there where we see in these characters in Star Trek who don't, in Jesus' words, lord it over them, right?
Mhm.
But who deal with people with compassion and love, right? And I think it's so easy for people to see you in emotional need and manipulate that to their own ends. And it's hard to be aware of that
Mhm.
when you are needy. And all of us need that. All of us need healing in relationships. All of us need each other. All of us need community. That's why it's so difficult for so many people right now,
Right.
being apart from people they love, and needing to still have that grounding, in other people. And I know so many Christians will be like, well, you've got to work on your relationship with God and everything. And I'm like,
Mhm.
yes, that's true, but God calls us not just to God's self, but to one another.
Right.
And I think we are designed as such relational beings that we don't find God. I mean, we can find God all on our own. We can commune with God directly just through the natural world or through prayer or what have you, but we are communal beings.
Mhm.
And um we're really going to find more, we're going to learn more, we're going to grow more, we're going to be able to connect with God more when we connect with one another in those healthy and those life-giving ways.
Mhm.
So community is so much a part of it, such an important thing to have and to build, and it can be hard to maintain in today's world, but it's worth the effort. And it's worth the effort too to remember those people who maybe you haven't talked to in a while during all this, and maybe you kind of assume
Mhm.
they're okay. Give them a call, drop them a line. Whether
Yeah.
whether you're in the middle of a pandemic listening to this or not,
Mhm.
boy, I hope you aren't. Um, but you know, uh, just think of those people who might need that, and give a call, drop a line.
And yeah, and I just, as a introvert with anxiety issues, I
Hmm.
just want to throw out there, think of what they need. Maybe you
Yeah.
do better on calls, but maybe they don't do better on phone calls. Maybe a
Hmm.
text or an email is a better way to contact them. Just think about your friend and think about how they communicate and what they need.
And
Uh,
even ask them. Even ask
yeah.
somebody.
Well.
What's the best way for me to talk to you? Where are you most comfortable? That helps a lot. Just giving people permission and space to need what they need and to be honest about their needs is so important. So yeah, I mean, this is the thing. We can talk about how much we need healing relationships, right? And
Mhm.
we can talk about seeking, we can talk about finding those, but I think our best focus in life, I mean, obviously we all need to seek what we need for ourselves, but we often find that by making ourselves available to other people, reaching out to other people, and not being afraid also to reach out when we're in need, to not be afraid to let other people know that we're hurting. That's an act of trust, but it's worth the doing.
All right. Well, that's about all the time we have allotted for our main topic. Was there anything else you wanted to add?
Just thanks for driving the car on this one.
Yeah, it's fun.
That's pretty cool.
Stretch a little bit here.
I knew you
So,
had it in
yeah, thanks. We have a really interesting question this week that I'm really curious to get your response to, Kevin.
Okay.
This listener asks, on the show, you've been talking about Not My Trek and how Trek has grown bigger than Gene's original vision. Is there anything Trek can do to make itself not Trek? You wanted Lower Decks to earn those two words, but didn't explain how it could earn them or fail them. What would, say, Discovery or Strange New Worlds have to do to get the Kevin C. Neese not my Trek, not Star Trek stamp? I kind of butchered the last few words there, but you get the point.
Yeah, you get the point. Okay, so I feel like the first episode of Lower Decks for me felt that way. And of course, going back, if I were to go back and watch it now, I might like it better than I did the first time.
Mm-hmm.
But that first episode, I mean, we were recording a podcast and then we basically scrapped it because we watched that episode in the middle, and I came back so dejected that I was like, oh, I don't know if we can talk about this series at all. Just this whole project may not work. I don't know. If we do this, we're gonna take another run at it from another angle. And because it was just a lot of noise and chaos, there was nothing about the characters really, and there weren't any Star Trek ideas. I think that's where I really started warming up to Lower Decks in the second episode, was where where it had something to it. It said something about the characters. It said something about the human experience. It was genuinely funny instead of just trying to earn laughs by having our characters in their underwear and having, I don't know, blood spurting everywhere, which is apparently hilarious. But so yeah, I think Star Trek has at times fallen short of being good Star Trek. I think my worst episode of Star Trek ever, which is most people's worst episode of Star Trek ever, or at least one of them, is Threshold from Voyager. And the reason for that is it's a worthless episode. It doesn't say anything. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't go anywhere. It's Brannon Braga following this ridiculous notion that we have to de-evolve in order to evolve, which is just dumb. Love you, Brannon. You're a brilliant writer, but that's a dumb idea. And so it's just, we broke the warp barrier, which is stupid to just do in an episode. And then, Paris goes crazy, and then he turns into a salamander, and then Janeway turns into a salamander, and then the Doctor fixes it with science magic. And that's it. And it's the whole episode. And there's nothing to it. It doesn't say anything. Our characters don't grow. They don't go anywhere. It's not about what it means to be human. It's not about exploration. It's not about any kind of philosophical question or social issue or cultural question or anything. It's okay to have a fun episode. It's okay to have a funny episode. It's okay to, whatever. But just, I don't know. For me, Star Trek loses its way when it stops aiming toward the uplifting of the soul, when it stops talking about what it means to be human, when it stops, anytime it isn't, like Star Trek Into Darkness. Star Trek Into Darkness does have some moments in it which are good Star Trek moments. But for the most part, it's big and it's noisy. And it's okay to have a lot of action in a Star Trek thing. But when there's little else, when characters are behaving out of character, like Spock and Khan and Carol Marcus and every legacy character they bring back in that episode. I mean, in that film, when the plot is badly constructed and doesn't make any sense, and the whole thing falls apart without having a good message or getting at, like, taking a stab at a message but not getting there. At least it takes a stab at a message. At least it tries. Um, so for Star Trek to not be Star Trek anymore, it would just have to start being a shoot 'em up show every week,
Right.
or it would have to be just like a soap opera every week or something. It would have to lose that thread of exploring the what it means to be human, what it means to live in a relationship with other peoples, what it means to strive for peace in the world, what it means to live according to love, um, exploration and discovery, and the exploration of the human heart. David Gerald said that the final frontier is not space; the final frontier is the human soul. When you lose sight of those things, that's when you really cease to be Star Trek. And that's what I couldn't even find a scrap of in the first episode of Lower Decks, and why I was so despondent.
So let me ask you then, with these, are they rumors or are they official that Section 31 show is coming?
I don't know at this point, because that was pre-pandemic that thing came out.
Okay.
It was definitely something that I think was basically announced that was being worked on, as far as I know. And I think that was before they remerged with Viacom too, before CBS and Viacom remerged. So I'm not sure about that.
So then let's talk a little hypothetically, if that's all right with you.
Yeah.
If that show were to get the green light and they were to go forward with that, given what Section 31 is all about, getting their hands dirty in ways that the true spirit of someone in the true spirit of the Federation wouldn't, in order to protect the Federation, to keep it as it is, what would that show have to do to earn the Star Trek title? And what are you afraid it would do that would take it and turn it into that not my Trek?
I will say at the outset that I'm kind of already uncomfortable with the idea that we need Section 31.
It kind of fit into that whole, there's that argument about, to be a truly tolerant society, or to be a successful tolerant society, the only thing you cannot tolerate is intolerance.
That's
and that paradox there that it kind of brings up.
Yeah, that's true. Although I don't think Section 31 is about that necessarily. But
No. I just feel like it kind of falls into that same almost paradoxical category.
There has to be a tough side to your existence. Oh, I see. You're just making a similarity. You're saying there's a similarity between these ideas. Okay, gotcha. Sorry. I'm like,
it's okay.
I'm trying to follow him.
No, it's all good. Truly, I have a dizzying intellect.
You do.
Just wait till I get going.
No, but yeah, no, something like that. But I believe in that principle, that the only thing you can't tolerate in an intolerant society is intolerance. I believe that's true. As paradoxical as it seems. And so I don't know, maybe there's space for Section 31. I don't know. Obviously, I feel like it's been used to good effect in several Star Trek stories. It's not my favorite part of Star Trek. It's probably my least favorite part of Star Trek. It's probably the part of Star Trek I could do without. Not really comfortable with it. So I think to be a good Star Trek show, a Section 31 show has to figure out how to come back to those same themes and ideas while our characters are constantly breaking the rules.
Right.
And that's hard. That's a deep challenge. And I think there would have to be something in there where, it's such a muddled world. You have to figure out, like, are there lines when you're doing Black Ops? And if so, where are those lines and what are they? And what characters are going to define those for us and how? And the conflict, I think, becomes internal within Section 31, where Ash Tyler or somebody else is, especially Ash, is trying to push against maybe the way people want things to be done. and instead go for, okay, we can do this, we can do it off the books, we can do it outside the scope of what Starfleet would normally do, but we don't have to go so far out of the scope of
Mhm.
what Starfleet would normally do that we lose who we are, that we lose our humanity.
And I think an interesting aspect of that could be Beth and I were discussing this today or yesterday as we were watching Korra, the Legends of
Yeah,
Korra, and kind of diving into the toll that takes on someone who is a good person and wants to do good, but has to step across the line, and just what that toll, what kind of a toll that takes on their psyche, and
So-
the relationships that they pursue in order to heal that.
Oh, hey, check you out. Bringing it on back.
Full circle, baby.
But yeah, to ultimately answer the question, I think that's the kind of thing you have to hold on to be a good Section 31 show. I kind of hope the Section 31 show doesn't happen, because I feel like Strange New Worlds is what Star Trek needs right now. Even though I think all the new Star Trek is great Star Trek, it is darker Star Trek, and it's harder for a lot of people to watch. And I want something that is more, breath of fresh air, more directly hopeful. And
I just wish it weren't paywalled. Gosh darn it.
Well, yeah, that's true. I agree with that. So, but thanks for the question.
Good question. Very good. Yeah,
awesome.
Thanks. Thank you. And while we're on the topic of listener questions, we also want to ask if any of y'all have any input on these relationships in Star Trek where they're seeking a healing relationship, an example that maybe we overlooked or just didn't get to, something you disagree with. Please let us know. We would love to have a back and forth with you guys. So
yeah, let us know. I think there's if you listen on YouTube, there's a comment section. You can let us know, or you can, tweet at us or email us, whatever.
We're on YouTube?
Yeah, we're on YouTube. I say it every week.
Oh, you do? There's that kind of half paying attention. I'm looking at the script that we don't have because we're not scripted.
Because we're totally spontaneous.
Right, exactly.
Right, yeah, we're on YouTube.
Hey,
so
cool.
There you go. And I think about 1 or 2 people listen every week.
We're
much more popular on Apple Podcasts.
Huzzah.
But anyway. Yeah. So
all
good.
Right. Very good.
All right. So Tim, what do we have coming up next week?
Well, according to the script that we don't have because we're completely spontaneous, next week we're going to cover the 3rd episode of Discovery, and we're going to see what else comes up.
We're gonna cover the 3rd week of Discovery
3rd episode.
Season 3. Third
episode of Discovery
Season 3. Yes.
What did I say?
It's the 3rd episode of Discovery, which would take us
back. Oh, right.
But anyway, well, okay, that's good. I mean, I hope people like this. We're kind of winging it a little bit with the main story every week just to see what Discovery inspires in us. And I hope you guys like that. I hope you enjoy it. If you don't, let us know. But in the meantime, be sure to please like, share, comment, and subscribe. And on YouTube, Tim, be sure to ring that bell.
I'm gonna have to go subscribe to that now.
Please do. And then also send us your questions. We're Gospel According to Star Trek on Twitter and Facebook, or gospeltrekpodcast@gmail.com. We would love to discuss your question on the show. Tim, do you have anything else to say to the folks at home?
I do, and normally I take this time to be, offer out some witty witticism.
Yes.
But this time I do just want to say, in the vein of seeking out relationships that can heal you, if you're struggling, if you're in pain, don't be afraid to seek help. Therapy has done wonders for me. I highly recommend. Oh, my cat just yawned at me. It's not, a lot of men in particular can feel like therapy is emasculating. It's not. It's okay to talk about your feelings. It's okay to explore your thoughts and feelings about things. It's okay to feel pain and to admit it. Please, 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 if you're struggling with anything, don't be afraid to seek help.
I couldn't say it any better. And gosh, he's absolutely right, folks. And there's a song, go look it up. There's a song by Madison Cunningham. It's on Spotify and whatever. It's called Always Waiting There for Me. And just go and listen to that song, because truly the love of God is always waiting there for you. And sometimes you're going to find it in a therapist's office. So thank you so much for being with us. It's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Gospel According to Star Trek podcast. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all the good words you folks have been sending to us about what this podcast means to you. It means a lot to us too.
It warms my heart.
It warms both our hearts. So until next time,
I'm Tim Van Orden.
And I'm Kevin Sinise. And as Jesus said in John 10:10, live long and prosper.
See you next time.
Thanks, man. Let's do one little insert.
Sure.
Can we do an insert because I did skip something?
Mm-hmm. What are we doing?
On the Discovery episode, I skipped a tiny thing that I want to say. So I'm gonna let's do it, and then if I use it, I'll use it. If I don't, I don't. It's not a big deal. Anyway,
gotcha.
One thing I really loved about this episode was the villain, Zara. When he walked in, I love the cool, calm, sinister thing that he brings. And I was watching him and just saying, I love this performance. I love this actor. And by the way, he's so familiar. I recognize this guy. I know this voice. I know it so well. I know this face so well, but he's got different hair and whatever. And I just don't recognize him. I can't figure it out. It's Jake Weber. And Jake Weber played Allison's the main character. He played her husband on Medium, which was a CBS show. You may not remember, actually. It's about a psychic person who helps detectives. Ran from like 05 to 11.
Yeah, my mom loved it.
Yeah, he played. Yeah, okay. So he played Joe Dubois, Allison Dubois' husband. And Melissa and I used to watch that series all the time. And but he's a great actor. I really like him a lot. I loved him in that series. And he came back in this episode that I hadn't seen him, I think, anywhere else since. And just because I don't watch a lot of stuff. And yeah, I thought he was amazing.
Very cool.
You have nothing to say about that.
I do not. I've never seen Medium. He didn't do anything for me one way or the other as an actor. And I was like, okay, cool.
Okay. Well, we'll just move on from that.
So what else would we like about it? You know what I don't like about Discovery?
What?
That I can't binge it.
Unless you wait. See, I do binge it, or I had binged it because I waited until the seasons were over. But yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, but you know what? I actually do like that I can't binge it. Because
there's an element of that talking about it over the water cooler.
And I like it, which we do, our digital water cooler here, which we're both taking drinks out of at odd times.
That's right.
but I like that episode per week that we used to get in the old days, and the anticipation that works on you for 7 days for what the next episode is going to be. It's this kind of happy medium between the streaming world that we've all become accustomed to and the broadcast world we used to live in. I kind of like it.
Yeah, I can see that. I think it just bothers me because I know CBS is doing it to milk the subscription.
Yeah, that's true. But hey, everybody's got to make money. There's always that conflict between art and commerce. But
I feel like they're double dipping, but that's neither here nor there. I'll let it go.
Yeah, I think they're riding in the middle between broadcast and how streaming services are normally done. And honestly, with the number of properties they have that are new, they might not be able to work it that way. Honestly, in a sustainable manner.
That's fair,
because most of their stuff is on their broadcast, and so I think they're doing it the best they can.
Yep. And at the end of the day, we got New Trek. So,
and who can complain about that?
Apparently, a lot of people.
That's the truth. Hey, that was a good bit.
All right, cool.
I like it.
Good.
I'll have to figure out how to work that in. But anyway.
Nice. Well, I'm sure You will work your magic. Just don't stay up until 5 o'clock in the morning. Don't kill yourself, or I'm going to feel bad.
Okay, I won't kill myself.
Thank you.
I promise. All right.
All right.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you greatly. This has been good.
Yeah, it was fun. I'm enjoying this. This is good for me too. I'm getting a lot out of this, I should say.
Me too. It's. I feel like this is what we've been working toward.
I do too. I do too. This is what we should have been 5 years ago, maybe, or maybe we just needed to get here.
We needed to get here. We wouldn't have been ready 5 years ago. Because you know what? I found audio files from when we tried to make a podcast. The first time we tried to do a podcast over at your house, I'd completely forgotten we'd done it.
Oh yeah.
I found the old audio files and I'm like, wow. we didn't know what we were doing. Or I didn't know what I was doing. Awesome. But I was just like, yeah, it wasn't time. It just wasn't time. So, but it's been years in the making, but I think it's worth doing.
Our time has arrived.
Hey, and 10 episodes. That's a landmark.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
That's pretty good. We should,
we should have mentioned that.
We should have mentioned that.
Nice.
Well, we could record a segment where we mention that.
No, this is true. We're still recording, aren't we?
We're still recording. Yeah. You want to do that?
Hey, we just did.
We just did.
Boom. Done. One take, Timmy.
There you go. So this is a little section that we're going to include just because this is our 10th episode, and we want to give you all a special treat of what it's like when the cameras, as it were, are still rolling, but we edit this stuff out normally. But anyway, welcome to our
world. This should be like the little bloopers at the end of the credits.
That's what I'm going to do. That's
all right. Good.
Yeah. Just decided that right now because that's how much forethought goes into this series. Actually, a lot of forethought does. Anyway.
Right. See, we're just having a conversation.
Yep. All right. We'll talk to you later.
All right. Take it easy, man.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.